Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi my loves, it's Choice and you're watching Choice TV. So for today's video, I was going to make this video at first, but I feel like I might as well because everybody has came to this crazy conclusion and this justified conclusion that all of this shit is Trump's fault.
Kind of felt like an earthquake, very loud noise, everybody phones going off. Ain't gonna lie, it's kind of crazy, yo.
A strike hit the airport, forcing it and the airspace to temporarily close over the weekend, leaving the real estate developer stranded.
Like, that's the number one question I'm getting asked is, when you coming back? And I'm like, I don't know.
We arrived in Dubai, we did our tours on the 23rd. We received an email the night of February 22nd saying that your flight got canceled due to the storm in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm a United States citizen, and my daughter, she's a United States-born child, and that really devastated me for the flight to be canceled. We got another email that our flight got canceled, and now I begin to worry, I begin to concern. I'm like, what do we do? You know, I'm sick, I'm a high risk, I have diabetes type 2, I'm on insulin. So we're going crazy. I'm here with my daughter's teenager, you know. Like I say, I'm worried. How are we going to get back? Numerous emails I'm getting, my flight canceled. I need to get back home. They said, ma'am, for security reason, because of the Middle East, the air is not clear yet. They rescheduled my flight now for March 15. Please, words matters. I'm here giving you guys words. You pass the words. Pass the word to someone, whoever can help us to get us out here. At first, I didn't want to freak out. To be honest, I'm scared. We're in the middle of the Middle East. We're hearing missiles. I don't know how this is going to end. Other people finding a way to sneak around to leave the country. I don't want to sneak around, leave the country. When I'm stopped, my sugar is low. There's no one who's going to come rescue me. Please.
Hi everyone, my name is Shekinah Lee. I am 26 years old. I'm from Chicago. I'm currently in Dubai. I'm in a parking shelter. We've received so many emergency alerts. We've seen the missiles with our own two eyes. We've heard the explosions. I don't know exactly what's happening, but I know that for people who are staying on the Palm Jumeirah like me, we are currently taking shelter. So I just wanted to give you all this update for people back home that may not know what's going on. Trump, thanks again for nothing. You get out of America and you still are affected by his foolery. It's like,
we didn't know that there was a conflict going on, right? We're out here having a good time and all of a sudden we're in the middle of a war.
The return flight the next day was quickly canceled. The ongoing conflict in the Middle East has left airspace in much of the region closed indefinitely.
They rebooked us for the 6th, which would have been this Friday. Then they canceled that, rebooked us for the 9th, canceled that, rebooked us for the 10th, canceled that, rebooked us for the 11th.
The couple spent hours on the phone with United Airlines Wednesday. They were told if they can get out of the Middle East, the airline will get them home. So they bought one-way tickets to Amsterdam for this coming Monday, but there's no guarantees.
As of today, the Dubai International Airport just closed until the 7th. So it's like if we look up our flight that we booked this morning, you can't even see it.
There's no evacuation plan that has been set to me or any of the Americans that I know that are here.
I know you've reached out to the embassy there and to your Congress members here. What are they telling you? Any luck there?
No, it's the same thing. I've done everything. The Italians have been able to get home. The Spanish have been able to get home. I don't understand why the U.S. government, the one that I actually trusted the most, would not arrange anything for me to get back to the U.S.
The U.S. Department of State asking those stranded to contact them.
We are actively and rapidly working to charter flights. There is some commercial flights that are taking off intermittently from these countries, and we plan to get Americans on board as quickly as possible, again, free of charge to them.
Pope says for now, she's had no luck getting a hold of anyone and hopes there will be a solution to get back to AZ soon.
We've said that we're stranded, that we would like to get home. We have not heard back from the State Department, so as soon as we get a word, we will be gone in moments, but we are just currently waiting.
Therefore, so that you are not miscalculating, know that in case of an attack on Iran, the occupied lands Israel as well as U.S. military bases in the region will be our legitimate targets. And with all these clear confessions that you made about invading Iran, we will not limit ourselves to a reaction. We will act based on signs of threats. It was necessary to say this to you and all your allies in the region to avoid miscalculation, otherwise it'll be too late to regret.
And to be honest with you, it's really not that simple, but low-key it kind of is. But then there's a bunch of other stuff that I want to talk about that not many people are discussing. So, as y'all know, there are a plethora of people stuck in different countries right now in the Middle East. Iran recently had their beef with Israel. Israel essentially, well, I gotta be careful what I say. You know, sometimes YouTube be on some shit. But Israel essentially launched a lot of attacks on Iran. And then eventually America co-signed it over the summer. Then eventually Israel struck again. And America co-signed it and made it clear that, yeah, we co-signed, we cooperated with this, we knew y'all were going to do it first, and that's why we attacked.
We were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people, people that do this very successfully, and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first, and I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. So I think I was right about that. We attacked first, and if we didn't, it could have been, you know, look, we're really decimating them. They're being decimated. And if we didn't, and by the way, we have massive amounts of ammunition.
Essentially, America has put a lot of strict restrictions on Iran and many other countries in the past to not make nuclear weapons. The best way to sum it up in like 10 seconds, because everybody just be running their mouth talking about nothing. Israel has a lot of issues with Iran and many parts of the Middle East creating weapons of mass destruction. If you don't know anything about the Middle East, they don't really F with Israel like that. Hell, some of the Middle East barely even recognizes Israel as an actual country, which means they don't trade, which means they don't recognize their currency, which means a lot of them are not welcoming to Israelis. Israelis, at a certain point, have been very much gatekeeping when it comes to certain trade routes, certain alliances, certain resources, and they've always had issues with Israel for many years. So it took a while for a lot of countries to even recognize Israel, and some don't. And Israel keeps the same energy and don't recognize them as well, which means no trade routes, no negotiation, no peace treaties, no nothing. So that's what a lot of that means. Now, what makes things even worse is Israel made it clear, okay, you don't recognize us, don't make weapons of mass destruction, because we know how we can be sometimes. But, you know, we'll make our weapons because we're powerful and we're connected, but you better not be making weapons at all without our, you know, concerns, since we, you know, run the Middle East and we're the most powerful country in the Middle East. Ain't nobody making weapons, and if you do make weapons, you better make it clear what you're making. The Iranian area and a lot of parts of the Middle East are rich in uranium and plutonium and a lot of oil, which helps make weapons. Now, without oil, plutonium, uranium, they couldn't make missiles. They couldn't make a lot of weapons that they have. But Israel made it very clear, chill out or we're going to come for you. And Iran secretly was still making these weapons, even though they agreed. And the rabbit hole goes even deeper, but essentially a lot of this is because America is basically Israel's bitch. And essentially America bullied Iran into complying, because if they didn't comply, they were going to get a lot of foreign assets frozen, which means a lot of them couldn't access certain banks, they couldn't get certain trade deals with certain allies, and a bunch more stuff. So essentially, Iran has complied with it for many, many years, and then eventually, under the table, Iran was still making mass weapons of destruction because they are war ready whenever it happens. And basically, Trump said, yeah, let it happen, let it rain, let's teach them a lesson.
Other Iranian allies and proxies in the region. In June 2025, the UN's nuclear watchdog said Iran had breached its nuclear obligations under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Iran has always said that they have never looked to develop a nuclear weapon. Israel launched a series of strikes on Iran, resulting in a 12-day war, and this culminated in direct U.S. involvement, including airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities.
Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat.
Now, just to be clear, over 1,000 people were harmed in the process. Over 1,000 people allegedly lost their lives. And on top of that, 13 hospitals were hit. This is a problem because many people are saying things like, oh, well, at least they're stuck in Dubai. At least it's Dubai. Some people are on budgets and some people's budgets are running through. Some people can't afford to maintain a decent hotel for a long time. On top of that, you got to also remember that some people weren't staying in Dubai. Some people were going from Thailand or Bali to Dubai and then coming back home to America, or some people were leaving America, connecting to Dubai, and trying to make their connection so they can go to Vietnam to see family. Meanwhile, people are calling the U.S. Embassy and they're getting messages like this.
Please do not rely on the U.S. government for assisted departure or evacuation at this time. There are currently no United States evacuation points. Please continue to check the embassy's website for updated information. In the event of ongoing military action, Americans should shelter in place until it is safe to move about freely.
Sadly, there's not much the U.S. Embassy can do because it's a diplomatic office. They usually help people who lose their documents, need a visa, and they usually help people that lost their passport. Even if you're in a different country, you're still affected by some of the shit Trump does. I'll never forget I was in Brazil. I was still seeing American news and ICE and all that stuff and the ICE rights and all types of shit still broadcasted on television. You know, even being in the UK, I still see things people in America are going through that are still being broadcast. So to the rest of the world, America looks like some big ass episode of Black Mirror. It looks like a big social experiment. And there's even countries like Germany and the UK and Canada that literally have advisories that say do not travel, poor health care, dangerous situation, unsafe, robberies, theft, and so much more. There's countries that are told to not come to the U.S. because they deem it as unsafe. But I'll never forget when a lot of us are sitting up here thinking, why Dubai? Dubai is never in no shit. It's known for being glamorous and safe and beautiful, and that's just where people go to travel. That's the point. So here's the tea about why they chose Dubai. Dubai is located near the Persian Gulf. It's literally on the coast. It's on the edge of everything. And guess what? Dubai is the most visited country in all of the Middle East. And just like Dubai, it's one of those connectors. Just like how every time you travel, you always got to connect through Dallas, or you always got to connect through JFK in New York City, or sometimes you got to connect through Atlanta Airport, or in some cases you got to connect through Orlando Airport. That's what Dubai is to the entire world who's traveling to Asia and Africa. If you're traveling to Asia and Africa, you're more than likely always going to have to transfer through Turkey. You're going to have to always transfer through Japan, or in some cases, you're going to have to transfer through Dubai. Most African and Middle Eastern countries don't have that powerful of a connection, and Dubai has a big enough airport to where they literally see 90 million people a year from just connecting flights. Over 200,000 people a day are connecting through Dubai, and most of them are just passing along. But Dubai was the perfect lick. And it's the perfect lick because everybody thought Dubai was trustworthy, and looks like, Lord and behold, it's not. And there's other places that are literally trustworthy people can't even go through anymore. Qatar. A lot of people are stuck in Qatar, but not many people are talking about that. So what's interesting is they're fucking with the aviation system, and it's the same thing they did during 9/11. Now, some of y'all are probably wondering, what does 9/11 have to do with anything? So let's be very clear. TSA is a brand new invention. Most people don't even know this, but some of y'all are probably older than TSA. TSA has technically only been around for like literally 24 years. It's existed for like literally less than 25 years at this point. And the reason why it exists is because of the 911 situation. Now, of course, we all know about the story with the Twin Towers and what happened with all them people and how thousands of people lost their lives. It was a lot. And the world did not take it too lightly. America took it very heavily, but the world didn't take it lightly. So then TSA came out, and it came out because a lot of countries were not going to allow flights coming into their country unless they invested into this new technology called TSA, which meant biometric security, which meant more people were going to be screened before they even were allowed on a plane, or more people were going to be watched when they went into airports. So anyone that grew up in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, they'll tell you, back then, airports were literally like bus stations. You could literally go into an airport sometimes, and even if you didn't even have a flight planned, your cousin or your brother or your best friend could have literally paid for a whole plane ticket and checked in at the airport, had your ticket printed, and be like, okay, I don't feel like taking my flight. I'm going to just give it to you. And you could literally take that flight on someone's behalf. Now, That's not a thing anymore. Back then, if somebody wanted to literally take your flight, they could have just taken it. And that was because airports are very lax. Some airlines didn't even have metal detectors. Some airlines had metal detectors if they privately paid for metal detectors to literally get screened and be done. But back then, that wasn't the thing. Airports were literally like this. Let me just put it this way. Y'all remember that scene from Home Alone where they were running from the entrance all the way to the airport because they were going to miss their flight? Yeah, that's how airports were back then. If you were like literally 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 13 minutes away, and you literally had to run to that flight, you could have literally hopped on, they would have let you on immediately. Now, they say you got to be at the airport at least 1 hour before. And the reason they say that is because back then, that didn't exist. You could literally show up last minute to the airport and you would have been straight. But the reason why nowadays you got to be extra early to the airport is because now you got to go through biometric screening, security, and all that stuff, and all because of oil, resources, the Middle East, America and other countries constantly meddling in the Middle East's business and destroying and trying to exploit their resources. And again, that whole 911 situation, that's another story, another video for another day. But they made it clear, okay, you want to F with us, we're going to F with your aviation system. And ever since, the world was never the same. So now the whole world thinks that if they go to the Middle East, something's going to blow up, something's going to explode, and it's not going to be safe because of the shit that happened. That's why the whole world has like their prejudice against Arabs and the Middle East in general, because they think they like to explode and blow shit up. Like back then, if you were talking to a guy and he took you to the airport, that was like a fun thing. Like, okay, we're gonna go to the airport, babe. I'm gonna take you here. And there were even restaurants that literally oversaw airplanes take over. There were literally airplanes built around the little takeoff area. There were restaurants built around the airport takeoffs where if you wanted to, you could see a whole plane fly over your head while you're eating like sushi or some shit. That was a thing. And then when the situation happened with the Middle East, that all ended. All these restaurants that oversaw the flights take off stopped existing. Now, if you at the airport, if you don't have a flight, you're not getting through. Now you can't walk your son or your grandson or your daughter to the fucking gate like you used to. Now it's like, you don't got a flight? Sorry, you can't come through. That's how it is. Oh, wait, sorry, you don't have a flight? Sorry, you can't wait in line. Many people suspect that we're going to go into some crazy-ass world war, which could be possible, but who knows? Usually a world war can only exist if multiple countries participate at the same time. But the world war happening is really unlikely. But let's be real, beefing with the Middle East is not a joke. The Middle East has access to the biggest oil reserves in the world. Let's be very clear, most of the stuff we all use is because of the Middle East. Those plastic containers you got in your cabinet, yeah, if it wasn't for the oil in the Middle East, a lot of us wouldn't have access to that. The internet we have, if we didn't have oil in the Middle East, a lot of us wouldn't have coding software, which is powered by oil, and a lot of us wouldn't have electricity, which is powered by oil, that provides us with internet, hence why you're listening to this right now. The sky is closed, and when the sky is closed, people can't get back home. People can't get to work, business travelers can't handle what they got to handle, and the whole world has to fill it. And when there are flights open in Dubai, it's only a few hundred. So only a few hundred people can leave at the time, and because Dubai is such a big city and attracts so many people, all these flights fill up or are ridiculously expensive. So imagine you paid $1,000 to get to Dubai and back, but now you have to pay about $3,000 for a one-way back home because flights are limited and airlines are skyrocketing the prices. And this isn't a joke because, as you all know, America killed the Iranian leader, Khamenei. Khamenei was a very powerful dictator who essentially controlled a lot of women, controlled the entire society. He forced Islamic beliefs onto people, and the whole country doesn't even want to be Islamic anymore. So due to his passing, they now have no leadership. So now they're making sure the rest of the world feels it. And the only way the rest of the world will feel it is if they attack the two biggest hubs, Qatar and Dubai. So the situation isn't going to get better anytime soon. And for everybody that's stuck in these other countries, it's really terrible because being stuck in a country is not fun. I've been there before, and I remember I was actually stuck in Brazil for a little bit. Like, I'll never forget. I didn't actually physically get stuck. It was a situation where a lot of times the government workers and the TSA workers can strike at any moment because of the stuff going on and the deals that they get sometimes. You know, these TSA workers are fucking worked to the death and they go through so much stress working these jobs and they're still underpaid. And in many cases, they can't get on the same page with the fucking U.S. government and the U.S. House. A lot of times they're underpaid, overworked, And a lot of times, there's never enough people. Sometimes when you go to the airport, sometimes TSA pre-check is closed or shut down. Sometimes some of these airports are shut down and limited, and these lines are ridiculously long. It's because a lot of times, a lot of people aren't coming in because sometimes they weren't getting paid. And then in many cases, I was stuck in Brazil for a little bit because I was thinking to myself, oh my God, like, how am I going to get home if TSA pre-check is shut down? How am I going to get home if they're shutting down certain airways because America can't get on the same page with the TSA workers and the fucking House and the Senate? But in general, will I say all this shit is Trump's fault? 10% of it is. A lot of this stuff, a lot of these issues with Iran and Israel has existed for literally 40 years. Before some of us were even born. It's existed that long. So it's 10% his fault. And a lot of this is the fault of a lot of people who want to bully and mistreat the Middle East for their resources. And one thing I say about people who are from the Middle East, they're usually some of the most chillest, most hospitable, most laid back, most welcoming and nicest people ever. It's just the media portrays them as people that are overly aggressive and like to blow and fuck shit up sometimes. But they never really show what caused it or what provoked it. That's my whole perspective on everything. I hope everyone sees where I'm coming from. And yeah. That's that for this entire video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, that's that. Choice out this bitch. Around. Future birds always hits around. Future birds and houses things around. Had to really thought that she's a lonely girl. And it's a lonely world. And she gon' let it burn, baby. Burn, baby. Burn, baby. This girl is on fire. This girl is on fire. She's walking on fire. This girl is on fire. Oh.